YouTube comments from a video titled, "Watch, the most compelling argument against tech in schools, Sophie Winkleman." Part 10.
At Rera 6119 wrote,
The plan destroy the family divide and conquer 50 years ago we had nothing but happy families now we have. Nothing but miserable single independent people and bastard children mothers with 10 baby daddies and have to wake up to the end of the world every day. Why mommy is strung out on drugs and alcohol and busy looking for a Tinder D, not a world for children.
At Gary Olson 4160 wrote,
I'm 58 and haven't had a TV for a decade, but I'm on my phone 60 to 90 hours a week. It's pathetic. The benefits of computer chips are not worth the negatives. I won't even get into the trace, track, and target scenario we are in. The elite will merge with machine, everyone else will be slaves or disposed of.
At Chewbecca 3830 wrote,
Over-reliance on tech in teaching and parenting boils down to nothing other than laziness. The fact that these products exist and are so accessible doesn't mean that we must use them. Just because you have 1 kg of chocolate in the cupboard doesn't mean you have to eat it. It's a form of gluttony. Take it in moderation. Children must learn how to use the internet in the modern world, because unfortunately everything is online nowadays, so if they can't navigate it for the purpose of job applications, shopping, long-distance communication, etc., while knowing how to identify bots and scammers, they will struggle as adults. However, to completely neglect traditional forms of learning is equally as dangerous. Children need to be more physically active than they are in most schools, and by using devices for everything removes the mess, noise, and chaos that children's brains need to develop healthily. For that reason, I don't hide tech from my son, because if I did, he would only eventually look for it himself, but just show him how he can enjoy its privileges without it consuming his life. He watches TV, but not without another adult watching with him, and he goes through TV breaks every day where he can only play with toys or read with books. 2 hours before bed, he's not allowed any screens at all. Since he is 2, he isn't allowed phones or iPads. AI schooling sounds like an absolute nightmare if they introduce that we are either homeschooling or moving to a country too poor for all this technological luxury.
At Eric Clavoy 4697 wrote,
Well, AI will run the world. They are ones that will need to learn to control it. So I don't think this good idea either. Damn if you do, damn if you don't.
At Revitalized Financials wrote,
Sophie's message is a vital wake-up call. In a world flooded with screens and instant stimulation, teaching children to pause, reflect, and imagine is more important than ever. True creativity and deep thinking grow from stillness and real-world connection, not constant digital noise. Thank you for reminding us to reclaim space for childhood to just be.
At Annette Henry 8065 wrote,
I took my 12-year-old daughter phone from her a year ago. She has had a phone since the age of 7. Her father gave it to her after we broke up.
At Leapfrog 9656 wrote,
The pandemic really opened my eyes to how it doesn't connect. If I couldn't see my friends abbed, we could gave called each other and seen each other in group chats. But people didn't use that. They gamed and texted rather than talk.
At Tony Ryan 43 wrote,
This takeover of the human mind commenced in the mid-1960s with scrapping of dedicated school teachers, training colleges, and replacing these with university degree indoctrination, a process that is dominated by the UN, which in turn was designed by Nelson Rockefeller, which is why it stands on Rockefeller land in New York. Screens must be removed from classrooms and parenting and replaced with the human experience. Mothers who drift down the street, eyes glued to a screen, while their babies are held papoose style, seeing nothing but the back of a device, must be arrested for child neglect and ordered by the court to attend and pass a course that teaches parenting functions, skills, and responsibilities. Yes, we have abdicated our humanity so terminally that this is what it will take to get it back. SUBSTCK, Oz's for Oz's.
A Gaian Dreamer wrote,
Please be careful on the notion public schooling, or any form of education that removes students from outdoor and community-building initiatives. MS Winkleman is correct on the digital aspect that is replacing books. However, books have had the same effect when introduced into society. Public schooling has a corporate agenda parents must also consider. When students are mandated what to learn, how does that create divergent thinking? Please check out Sir Ken Robinson's Search YouTube, Assessment of Public Schooling, and see if you agree with MS Winkleman's notion kids are getting an education that builds their full potential. Please refer to the literature on education for sustainable development, or transformative education.
Themic Tisquid wrote,
Don't forget about the endless advertisements online. It's becoming like cable TV. First, it was commercial-free for a price. Then pay plus commercials. Our kids are being bombarded with commercials creating consumer robots rather than thinking humans. Very soon, AI will be the accepted norm of information, whether true or imagined.
At Tanya Crittenden 4879 wrote,
Here's an idea. Instead of an option to opt out of screens in school, let families choose a second track. This track would be old school. No screens, phonics, math facts memorized, passionate teachers with or without credentials, small classrooms, etc. Everything that worked before it was all screwed up by loony ideas in college education departments.
At Sophierling 7714 wrote,
How will children who are so constantly artificially stimulated ever learn to think, imagine, create, or just be still? No need for that. AI will do it, and they will just move their hands in order to build more robots under the instruction of other robots. They're just getting adjusted to the world that they will live in tomorrow. Humanity needed a transition to admit the future, while rich people will continue to live in their sanctuaries.
The Patricks ___ wrote,
This is done on purpose. Check entities like WEF. They are behind most of what's going on in the Western world. Our leaders are also coming from that enslaved programming. Check their agenda, the Great Reset, transhumanism, etc. They are targeting the younger generation on purpose. This is the way to obtain a much malleable, controllable humanity. More or not, people should wake up and understand that this is happening for a specific reason.
A Joalimar CU3QB wrote,
The world's full of phone zombies. I don't own a cell phone and almost never watch TV. I guess I missed out on the thrills of social media addiction. Always funny when you see some zombie crossing a busy intersection, staring intently at their phone, oblivious to everything. If friends or family are here, if the phone comes out, you get ignored. You are not there. Most are so addicted they don't notice or care.
At Pointy5911 wrote,
I'm so glad I grew up in the 80s and 90s. Everything was boring and quiet back then. We had 3 channels and TV went off at night. I spent my time reading and learning music, which is a huge source of pleasure to this day. I probably wouldn't have done that if I had had screens back then. I stayed outside for hours and hours in all weather and had so many incredible adventures doing that. But I also learned how to be bored.
At Gunamgunyu 6637 wrote,
Tech is not engineering, it's a degraded, low-quality type application companies like all the only social networks do not engage in true engineering but more social science applications. Do not. confuse these people with engineers. They hired thousands of people who would never have what it takes to be an engineers and are more or less push-button bureaucrats doing office work, not engineering. And when these companies try to do engineering, it's like a school project gone mad.
@NoCent25 wrote,
I detest cell phones right from when they became affordable enough for the masses. A friend bought one in 1997 or thereabout, and right from the start, he was receiving phone calls when we were hiking, during dinner in a restaurant, and he always put his phone next to his plate and would be watching it all the time. I asked him if I was that boring, and he laughed uncomfortable, but that was it. His phone was by his size 24/7. Then with another friend, I was on holiday climbing a mountain in Wales, and he would phone his boss to say he was leaving. His boss got angry and he got angry, so his mood turned like a leaf in the wind and our outing in nature was ruined. 2 days later, we were up north climbing Snowdon, and he got a call again. His boss was angry and disappointed and wanted him to stay. He didn't want it, and so his boss got angry and he got angry too. So another trip was ruined, and he kept moaning when he should have enjoyed the beautiful nature and his time with his friend. And when you see children glued to their phones on birthdays, during dinner, lunch, and breakfast, in bed, and even during funerals, you see them and adults staring at their phones. I see people walking the dog while watching Netflix on their phone. They look like addicts. Well, they are. I hate cell phones, and I even hate smartphones even more. I don't like WhatsApp, SMS, etc. When I need to talk to someone, I call them from home. And when I am not home, people cannot reach me. Simple as that. I have a cell phone only for emergency, and it is off at all times, except when I have an emergency, which hasn't happened yet. If I am outside, I enjoy the views, fresh air, and don't want to be disturbed. The cell phones have ruined our societies. Of course, they can be useful, but the damage it caused are too big.
Rebecca T1E6L wrote,
The assumption is that government really aspires to an education system which produces alert, thinking, creative citizens. But is that actually the case? If the government's aim for state education is the production of controllable compliant subordinates, then government policy. Makers will never absorb the ideals of educators who want to enable the development and potential of every individual.
Deb Smith 7025 wrote,
The schools did this. My friend's grandson had to have a device with Wi-Fi capabilities, whether it was a phone, tablet, laptop, or Nintendo DSi. It was required. He was in 6th grade. Now, they are trying to ban cell phones in schools, but with so much school violence, it is not the time in high impact schools. A 12-year-old noticed his bus driver was having a medical emergency and stepped into action. He was the only child without a cell phone, so he was paying attention. His parents said when he turns 13, they would buy him a phone. The boy is above average in school and reads actual books. The neighbor kids were children who were outside playing and not on phones and tablets. They were smart kids because they used their imagination. One teacher decided no internet searches and no homework for the entire year. She said she wanted the kids to go outside and explore the world. They tested number 1 in the state because they wore themselves out and slept well at night. She still does it even to this day, and the children thrive in her classroom. The kids learned to figure out things for themselves.
Isumarini wrote,
As an Australian mum with a 15-year-old, it's been a really tough time trying to keep them off a screen. Whilst we try our best to limit screen time and remove data from an iPhone for their safety, it's become an addiction as they can access social media from other platforms. It's rotting our kids' brain with all the BS available to them with no safe implementation or accountability. From the digital creators, yes, Australia has taken the first steps of banning social media until you are 16. However, this implementation will take time. I'm thankful for the next generation of kids that won't have access, but it's too late for our teens today. Our suicide rates are higher, self-esteem lower, with more kids today suffering from anxiety and ASD and ADHD. What systems were implemented from the media giants for the aftermath and fallout of digital technology? Schools have become too reliant on screens and online learning. Kids are unable to focus on just listening and learning from a teacher with notepads and pens. It's sad what our education system has done, and they have become part of the problem. Whilst we would love to see our child just open a novel and read, it just doesn't happen. It's all on the screen. My child's exercise books that we had to buy for school are barely written in. It's all online. It's very sad. And yes, it's destroying our kids.
At Leo Convideo wrote,
In Australia, it was only last year iPhones were banned from high schools. What really needs to happen is iPhones are restricted until the brain develops. The damage caused by these devices has now destroyed multiple children's generations.
At Viewpoint 314 wrote,
For schools, teachers can learn to use and have kids use AI to make them actually smarter, but it puts a lot more work on the teachers. Now teachers can be lazy and say, write an essay on the Roman Empire. Of course, that doesn't work anymore, but modeling the Roman Empire and having different groups study what would happen if different factors were different, and providing proof for that is a whole other thing. Kids can become literate with AI, as China is doing at the grade 1 level now, and basic calculus and matrix. Algebra can be introduced at the grade 3 level, not just waiting until high school.
At M. Viller wrote,
The following is copy and paste from a book called The First Testament of the Illumination. From your first breath, you were trained to respond to our cues. You are inoculated by omnipresent energy waves being broadcast from screens and phones and devices you can never fully avoid. Many of our delivery systems have been disguised behind things you use in your everyday life. Radio and television waves carry music and video on specific spectrums, broadcasting sounds over the air that cannot be seen nor heard without a device to receive it. In the same way, our messages are broadcast on spectrums only detectable by your subconscious mind, allowing us to gently influence decisions and choices of entire cities at once. People mostly think this is a spray theory. That's why they can't see what's happening to the kids and adults too. People would rather feel they are right and righteous than to believe a spiracy theory.
At Ahmed T3K8Z wrote,
Then the mom should stay at home abdi raise her children. If it is not possible because of the economy limits, then destroy that economical system and build the economy where a mom can stay at home. Not to obey the system. Change the system, not human nature.
At Danneringer wrote,
A really well-produced self-learning system is better than an average teacher, but you still need to have socialization time, and some classroom time is helpful in that way. A great teacher is better than a bad self-learning system, and a teacher-led classroom can also add the social aspect that is needed. Children should not be allowed to have cell phones until they reach the age of 21. Pagers would be okay, though, if needed. In America, we could save $1 per and teach $15 trillion if we developed an outstanding self-learning system and combined it with the needed socialization to round out a student. Union teachers are a huge waste of money. Union civil servants are bad workers and an enormous threat to freedom, and a gigantic waste of money.
At One Flying Girl wrote,
We need to return to books since the program schools use are flawed. I quit being an aide after 5 years since I refused to use core. Look at their homework and you will see how bad it's become.
At Caspinimmunity 4178 wrote,
By externalizing our experiences to a screen, we deprive ourselves of our own company. We forget to feel, cease to do, continue to numb our sensations. Ingesting all the rubbish on social media via osmosis and blocking our true potential.
At Buscamucho wrote,
I generally agree with much of the argument. However, what I've seen of Alpha School in Texas suggests that 2 hours of individually tailored AI learning, followed by 6 hours of non-screen based project/problem-based learning is very effective. We don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
At CCCPHLST wrote,
This is how a species is evolving, and it will adapt. This turn can't be reversed now. Accept it, don't know for good or bad. This lady and the middle-aged parent generation in general is resisting this change because they are so convinced children should have an ideal childhood as per their 90s/80s idea. For kids today, it's boring. I mean staring out the window versus world of Roblox. For me, I am not sure I am worried at the screen time of my 10-year-old. But also realize this is a life skill of the future. They will be citizen of virtual world in future and not developing a gut feel sixth sense of how AI algorithms works and being able to second guess it might be the recipe to life failure. Just like a general survival skill is to develop the same skill in the real world, which we developed kicking the ball around, throwing stones across ponds, and having real conversations with lovers. Sorry, I don't see the kids now going back to that.
At Shriramjathy 9856 wrote,
I am from Kerala, India. I have been teaching children from my rural home for the past 30 years. I focus mainly on family ties, along with books, under trees in the open. Nature is our most important teacher.
At RMYW6XC wrote,
Neglected them. They are in their phones because you won't parent right. A funny thing happens when you pay attention to your kid. They put the phone down. Treat your kids like people, not kids.
At Chrissy4660 wrote,
Laptops at schools since the COVID era have been a tremendous blow to me and my family. Schools don't send out notice on what homework needs to be done. My son's writing and spelling went down since all they do is look at the laptop instead of actually using a pencil and paper.
At MyReviews_Foss wrote,
Sister-in-law gave her daughter an iPhone and full access to social media at age 8. Now she's complaining about her daughter having boys' issues and how she is too young for that at age 11. HMNNM, I wonder why.
Krasire wrote,
Hypergamy. Everyone has a buffet, but you have to learn to eat from the buffet, and it's much harder to learn how to eat at the table when it's full of cakes and pie.
At Rajeshan Vijo, DJ7DK wrote,
Yes, it's become sad. People used to smile while walking past us. Nobody speaks to strangers anymore. Nobody sits out looking at the birds. Those television days were good during the 90s. We used to go to work and go back home and chat with family, have dinner together. Now house rent's so high at work they don't allow you to sit thieves everywhere. I feel sad. Why? Don't feel like living here anymore, Bangalore, India.
At Inder Bandinelli 4127 wrote,
I agree. My kids get just 1 hour screen daily at home. My youngest doesn't want to do Sparks reading homework in the PC because he prefers to read a real book, but the school says that he has to read on the PC or tablet.
To Pixel the Mushroom wrote,
Where did the advice for keeping screens away from children below 3 go? I remember that being the advice back in the 2000s due to the negative effects seen in children who were slotted in front of them at young ages.
Paul K2G1J wrote,
People go after the new technology because it's an easy target. I'm an American man born in 1965. The first phone I learned to use was rotary, and it now seems like something from the Stone Age. I've seen both sides of it. I can remember when all we had was just a few radio and TV stations. I recall when those working in the media had full control. They decided what topics would be discussed, when they'd be discussed, and who would be allowed to participate in the discussions. That's too much power in too few hands. I can say without hesitation that I'd never want to go back to the way it was. I saw a little girl who lived in a war zone, and she got her arm blown off. If this woman in the video wants to speak out against something, she should speak against war and genocide, but she doesn't have the guts and the courage to do that.
John Davis 7031 wrote,
Teacher here. This is my last year teaching. For the past 3 years that I have been teaching, I've been battling cell phones in the classroom. I found out that next year our students' laptops are going to be replaced with devices that can do literally everything that cell phones do. The user agreement that a teacher will have to sign in order to receive one themselves states that the device will randomly take photos, and the company reserves the right to use those. I'm glad I'm not teaching next year. The grant for these devices is being provided by, you guessed it, a cell phone provider.
Joe McKay 8257 wrote,
Ironically, if I wasn't spending so much time on my cell phone, I would not have found and watched this video, which I thoroughly enjoyed and agreed with. Also, I gave and subscribed. Why? So I can get more information from ARC. That's a good thing. However, many times, when visiting with senior friends at McDonald's, I will see a parent with one or more young children, all of whom are glued to their cell phone. Obviously, the non-custodial parent. That's BAD. I have saved this video and will share it with as many parents as I can. Thanks, ARC and Sophie Winkleman.
Jasper Spirings wrote,
Social media isn't about connection, it's a system designed to hijack attention, undermine values, and amplify the most extreme voices. It's not a platform for community, it's a marketplace for manipulation. And that's the pattern. Almost every major problem in the world stems from one thing: profit. It was profitable to replace teachers with screens. Profitable for tech giants to claim this was the future of learning. Profitable to automate everything in the name of efficiency. Profit, not purpose, drives the decisions, and money, more often than not, is the root of the problem.
The Wolfalpino wrote,
It's a problem for adults as well, since many are not grown-up children. I totally miss the analogic times, and not shoes because of nostalgia itself. We should get rid of the current technology. I'm not going to tell you all, because I don't want to be taken for a fool. But I do subscribe to every word she says.
Gus Gozer 4628 wrote,
Couldn't agree more. Consider also how technology affects children in poor countries getting entertained but not educated by all sorts of devices and left alone to these devices who themselves have become civil to modern technology. I cringe at the potential harm AI and quantum computers can do to society.
As Charisse 10 wrote,
Homeschool mama here. Before I pulled my daughter from public school, I worked at the school. I was appalled when I saw that once they were done going to 4 table sets of cut and paste, they were immediately sent over to a table set up with computers and headphones. They would sit there navigating themselves, no teacher instruction, no typing tutor, learn yourself, and become more brainwashed by the system. Also, PowerPoint books were read over the monitor while the teachers were at the desk and kids sat in the darkened room. There is no reason that we should ever have switched from blackboards, pencil and paper, art and music class. Other than the internet and AI brainwashing communist agenda. People should have realized this when they spoke against screen time in the 90s, but everyone jumped on the convenience of the new internet takeover with shopping, food ordering, stay-at-home lockdown, work from home, become lazy, unhealthy physically and mentally, text don't call, etc. This was by design. Once you understand and see how long this has been at play, you should be sick and mad. Stand up and change it now before we are gone, and our children are completely destroyed. By the way, my daughter is about to turn 12. She excelled academically once she started homeschool program. A test score are above her friends at school. Multiple teachers, as well as admin here in California, have left the system and now work with these programs too. In fact, many of them wouldn't even have their own children in public school, even when they taught there. The homeschool community is ginormous and very helpful.
Tesseract wrote,
These are the same British, people who ridiculed Gurukul system in India for being backward. Ancient Indians knew what they were doing, but modern Indians listened to the British and the Americans and got fooled. But the Europeans and the Japanese still make good pens and pencils.
AFEI5E wrote,
Idiot parents, they want kids, but they want them to be quiet as well. So they give them these devices, and in 5 years bitch and moan because they have social skills. They're not their kids' mates, they're their parents.
Alex No wrote,
I'm a teacher at a primary school in Australia. Our students have both iPads and laptops. This tech is so destructive. Our kids don't use them as directed. Their work is of a lower quality due to gamification. They are less social, and their conflict resolution skills aren't as great, and they are often overstimulated due to the colors, sounds, and speed of objects on their screens. Their fine motor neuron skills have suffered too. I used to work at a Steiner school, and the students were much more advanced.
Inservio Leadum wrote,
It is a connecting force, just not between people. It connects investors, gambling addicts, to victims. Social media is the combine harvester that harvests your life, your time, your attention, and denies any of that to your fellow man.
Lines Games 3893 wrote,
Government should have zero intervention. That's fucking communism at that point. Fucking parents are lazy and careless and need to be pushed or punished as terrible lazy parents for this reason. Why should the gov get involved? That's stupid ass.
Enyang 9270 wrote,
We have to keep using our phones for the benefits it bring, but have to have a constant awareness of the addiction quality and control it. Like she said, it should not be our master. When an adult learn to master the usage of their cell phones, they can teach that to their 18-year-old when they buy a cell. Yes, 18 is a good age. Screens are as addictive as any other drug.
ZombieJDC4 I wrote,
I loved playing on the Apple II and Coleco Adam, and I remember the edutainment programs like Number Word Muncher and Oregon Trail. I don't understand why we are getting upset about children and screens. I got bored after a few games and then went to play outside, play with the toys in my room, or read books. I even loved reading instruction manuals for video games. I really don't understand.
Tmuso wrote,
I was well behind you up until you brought up the strictest headmistress. She has gone down the everyone's a Marxist who questions my approach rabbit hole and is following a box-ticking approach to learning. She have reduced screen time, but she is not a leading light.
Adamistiel wrote,
While I agree with overall sentiment, it was always annoying how having glasses was always blamed on the screen time. I killed my eyesight reading books as a kid. My mom by studying into late night. Screen time can contribute to how bad it gets, but let's not confuse causation and correlation. Myopia, or nearsightedness, has a strong genetic component, meaning it runs in families. While environmental factors also play a role, studies have shown that children with myopic parents are more likely to develop myopia themselves. So before any screen time even started, one can bring their 1 to 2-year-old to an eye specialist to get accurate prediction on likelihood of developing myopia and how to slow its progression. Avoiding it if it's in your genes and you are tested to have predisposition is not feasible. Same as one can try to slow its progression by ensuring kid is outdoors during lunch times between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. for at least 40 minutes. Since myopia will progress regardless as you age, kids' eyes grow as they grow, and myopia gets progressively worse due to those biological changes. All of this is easily available information both online and via doctor consultation. So please stop giving such easy solutions explanations on this nuanced topic.
At Marion Mercedes 7287 wrote,
As a mother of 2 daughters and a grandmother of 2 girls and a boy, and a great-grandma of 1 boy and 1 girl, I wholeheartedly agree with you, big-time, kind-hearted and compassionate lady, in Yeshua Jesus Christ's precious Savior's name, Shalom and Amen.
At ABCCB1 wrote,
Brilliant. And it is not just social media dash a slippery distinction that mass media likes to slot in to deflect away and attempt to distinguish from their own particular activities. It is, as she says, all screen time. Even this, though this was very worth watching.
A _ you may find _ wrote,
Fully agree. And I am young millennial, so I already grew up a bit with phones. The smartphone came later though, but it came up when I was teenager. I see how addicted people have become. Especially for the kids' teens, this is very harmful.
At Ethereal Visions 17 wrote,
I agree with all and am anti-AI, etc. also. However, it should be remembered that children and people with autism, etc., actually benefit, and in some cases are only able to learn, via online computer. Also not lost on me is the irony of watching this on my phone screen. That said, wholeheartedly agree that children should be off screens in their downtime, and they should be interacting in person with friends, family.
At Ronald Aaron Lopez wrote,
The criminals that I am now being gang-stalked by in inexplicably illegal and invasive ways beyond my comprehension now inapparently might be doing what is shown in this YouTube video, mostly to claim that their chosen frivolous war criminals playing crazy sane have been going through the same thing when they get caught. I assume. But they are way worse for inexplicable invasive TACTICS that these vile creatures of human destruction find entertaining. Humorous while they promote sexual aggression towards targeted, premeditated citizens criminals who I see or make find their way into MY line of sight. These evil scumbags would be doing such a massive effort only if they themselves are planning to choose their own fraudulent victims once they have the medical diagnosis while having access to a civil system that I am being denied access to or not even being served via process service, as they probably claim that I was when their worst, most insidious place themselves, as who I am supposed to be, and there is a most disturbing sense that I am misgendered. I am born a male. I am a biological male, now a man, and I will remain a heterosexual man for the rest of my life, even falsely placed as colored person or even dead person, as if I am a thing to replace to loot. Attention law enforcement all over the world, I, Ronald Aaron Lopez, demand ACKNOWLEDGMENT in the form of that I be physically put into a helicopter aircraft. How is what is happening not happening even possible? I have so many delusions to structure in order to lie to myself enough to fake rationalize and play along with. I think act as if I'm either flattered as if I'm supposed to be or to expose more destructively critical war criminal scumbags and terrorist psychologists who are among these worst types of war criminals for knowing that no psychology board in the world will back diagnosing myself or anyone without meeting and having one-to-one private conversations, especially after several days of perhaps speaking about every doctor in my past and what prison they have been sent to for the rest of their Nazi science type lives for even speaking, and not immediately having a foreign embassy ready for I, Ronald Aaron Lopez, to be placed so that I would receive legal medical services beyond laboratory animal types of elements still being used against I, Ronald Aaron Lopez. Never has a sort of brain function dissection, living autopsy on a living human being. I'm a living human being for nearly a decade of public involved war crimes ever happened before, as I think so the destructive critics are sorted beyond a price they aren't permitted to set on my privacy or intellectual process, which is a biological function, and that is being violated and dramatically interrupted due to what product of an environment that I have succeeded past and beyond many times, as billions of dollars seem to be why people are referring to having been used to smear and destroy someone's life, and I am almost certain that I am the person that was being referred to, and my name is Ronald Aaron Lopez. I invited no one into my most intimate creative function or process, so now I am to have all sorts of law enforcement uphold their duties and oaths that include, but are not limited to, being permitted to witness war crimes and aggravated stalking be inflicted on myself and or anyone who poses a threat to war criminals in and around my presence, even among their own ranks. I have to be placed into a helicopter aircraft without any warning to anyone, and that is the required reaction beyond DISUSSIOM or CITICIZM that is supposed to occur immediately. For almost a decade now I am revealed as being in distress and being publicly exploited, especially by increasingly premeditated war criminals for the past couple of years. Are you they too stupid and criminal to comprehend that I am supposed to be placed into a running helicopter aircraft and flown to safety, which is away from people, using words, arguing anything or using words? At this point, when considering a helicopter doesn't require words to pilot and firearms, don't require words to aim and fire live ammunition at people who pose a threat to human life.
At Ronald Aaron Lopez wrote,
Never has a sort of brain function dissection, living autopsy on a living human being. I'm a living human being for nearly a decade of public involved war crimes ever happened before, as I think so the destructive critics are sorted beyond a price they aren't permitted to set on my privacy or intellectual process, which is a biological function, and that is being violated and dramatically interrupted due to what product of an environment that I have succeeded past and beyond many times, as billions of dollars seem to be why people are referring to having been used to smear and destroy someone's life, and I am almost certain that I am the person that was being referred to, and my name is Ronald Aaron Lopez. I invited no one into my most intimate creative function or process, so now I am to have all sorts of law enforcement uphold their duties and oaths that include, but are not limited to being permitted to witness war. Crimes and aggravated stalking be inflicted on myself and or anyone who poses a threat to war criminals in and around my presence, even among their own ranks. I have to be placed into a helicopter aircraft without any warning to anyone, and that is the required reaction. Beyond DISUSSIOM or CRITICIZM that is supposed to occur immediately for almost a decade now, I am revealed as being in distress and being publicly exploited, especially by increasingly premeditated war criminals for the past couple of years. Are you they too stupid and criminal to comprehend that I am supposed to be placed into a running helicopter aircraft and flown to safety, which is away from people using words, arguing anything, or using words? At this point, when considering a helicopter doesn't require words to pilot and firearms don't require words to fire, I am indeed not dead, and I am certainly not among the culpable of war crimes, fraud, hate crimes, and crimes against humanity like those who seem to now readily, illegally, aggressively exploit my immediate presence and what I have survived, at times multiple times in a single day, is nothing short of miraculous, and that makes Ronald Aaron Lopez the priority that has to be removed from the environment that I am in, and I am supposed to be placed into a helicopter aircraft, and I am to be, I suppose, flown to a nautical vessel that should have already been sent to await my arrival a decade ago. Like a helicopter aircraft and military-level law enforcement response that I am supposed to be receiving. A response that results in I, Ronald Aaron Lopez, be placed into a helicopter aircraft because as of yet, I know of no effort or who are going to place I, Ronald Aaron Lopez, into a helicopter aircraft that I assume is gourmet to be sent from where I do not know or see until it lands and I am placed into a helicopter aircraft. And I require this to happen immediately, as my life is being wasted on my requiring to be placed into a helicopter aircraft, so whether it be aggravated kidnapping, attempted murder, or extradition-worthy war crimes and crimes against humanity, now that those obstructing helicopter aircraft response are engaging in be the reason that I am not being placed into a helicopter aircraft or any other culpable excuse. They are all irrelevant to my immediate human urgencies, and I require to have my right to refuse to be exploited upheld with indiscriminate impunity, and I need to be placed into a helicopter aircraft. Forward this to every international law enforcement agencies on this planet. It's not human what I am describing as impossible to explain, what it doesn't even seem possible that I have been in stalked for now worst for a decade by terrorists trying to inflict what it is that they enjoy and are in no way victims, as I try to now explain what it is to be missing that natural vulnerable inner presence that I am supposed to keep to my own personal self, that we human beings share rarely, if not never at all, is missing, and that's what I mean by that. I am missing essential pain that is required when the decisions we make won't affect everyone the same way or perhaps positive in any way, but it saves those that matter most above criminals who find violating my privacy and exploiting my presence funny, amusing, or in any way not horrific. That I am not being placed into a helicopter aircraft and flown to where I am not experiencing the non-emotions that I have no place to genuinely explain, that came from anywhere beyond anyone being able to say fake or acting or not who I really am.
A purpose-driven 1329 wrote,
Meanwhile, in Trinidad and Tobago, a new government promises free laptops for all SEA secondary examination assessment students. Just a smack under 20,000 kids entering into secondary schools.
A padded wire 721 wrote,
Nice one, Sophie. It's so reassuring to hear someone talking like a responsible adult. Every teacher and parent in the world should see this video before it's too late.
At Rimdebisi 2998 wrote,
I gave my son his book to do the research required, and he told me his teacher wants it on PowerPoint, not written by hand on a paper. He moved from an active learner to a passive learner, copying everything and pasting the information on his PowerPoint.
At Greg Jones 8412 wrote,
It reminds me of John Christopher's Tripods trilogy, where children at the age of 14, our Capte special metallic cap is fixed to their skull, preventing the wearer from thinking any undesirable thoughts and rebelling against their alien overlords. The sad thing is, by the age of 14, the current generation have already had their independent thinking faculties hijacked, and it's done through social coercion so that they willingly participate. Mankind turned technology into its god, and this is what's happened. Why are we even surprised?
At Marta Joannas Walinska 4817 wrote,
I'm looking after 11-year girl. She's struggling with ADHD and quite severe dyslexia. I feel like being barely able to read prevents her from exploring social media. She is the coolest kid I know. When we spend time together, there's no phone policy. Peculiar thing is, she chucks her phone away very happily. It's wonderful. We go swimming, sing songs on the top of lungs, gardening, cooking, talking about philosophy and stuff. All the other kids are glued to their phone as soon as they come out the primary school. We go wild swimming, happens we have a sea bathing pool in our park. Girl chats with all the interesting people, she's a part of the cool group, doesn't need other school kids' validation. My job is to be the cool auntie. Bring back some magic of the world outside. I'm neurodivergent myself, so it's awesome I can utilize my quirks to do some good.
At Alfredo Solari 7597 wrote,
I am an English language teacher in a middle school, 11 to 14-year-old. Yes, there is a digital board in the classroom which is useful for listening practice, but I limit its use. 3 to 5 minutes and not in every lesson. I grew up with paper and books, visiting my small local library in Hampstead, London to do my research and borrow books. I agree with the wise words spoken by this intelligent woman.
At Elizabeth OT14 wrote,
Well said. Do you know I am 67 years old now, had the non-digital upbringing. Dance and music lessons, books everywhere, debates, actual Christmas and birthday cards sent in the post. Mum and dad home, kids happy to do outside and inside chores. Picnics together or going as a group to the flicks. Playing cards at mum's kitchen table. Laughing often and playing the fool regularly. And do you know what? I was given a phone at age 50 by my kids. Very handy, I admit, especially as they were still at school. Now, however, I find myself on the phone continually, watching YT and becoming depressed at the world's ills. I am sure my attention span has diminished. I haven't finished reading a single book in ages. It's not just aging, I am sure. My children now in their 30s feel the same way about themselves. Please, parents, do reconsider the old ways. We all survived and thrived in that old-fashioned climate.
At Patrick Neal 5065 wrote,
We have 3 children. We will be homeschooling our 10-year-old starting this fall and our other son, who will be in 1st grade this fall. We have a little girl who just turned 4. Our oldest son is only allowed to play pre-approved online phone games if he's good, which means doing his chores, which are basic, being respectful, 1 day a week. If he isn't good, he doesn't get it. We only allowed this because of feeling pressure, because many of his schoolmates get a phone, iPad, gaming on a regular basis. If it weren't for that, he wouldn't be getting even 1 day until he's older. Our two youngest get no devices, only TV time, but we go outside daily. Our oldest is involved in jiu-jitsu, does golf, does piano and the banjo. Kids are so different nowadays. Many don't seem to know how to have basic conversation, and many don't make good eye contact because they are constantly on their devices looking down. My son said his classmate has his on YouTube channel. Last year, when my son was in 3rd grade, he tried calling up a couple of his friends to talk, and he also wanted to set up some get-together to play on the weekend. These were his actual friends he hung out with at recess. Neither was interested. When I was growing up, I can't count the buddies I had to play with in my neighborhood, hang out with on the weekends, call all throughout my school days. Now it's gaming, social media. If you ask kids what they want to be when they grow up, don't be surprised if you hear being a blogger or a YouTube star or TikTok. My days it was being a doctor, nurse, firefighter, laborer. We are creating a society of social inept, lazy people. We're doing our best with our children, but sadly, they will not have even close to the childhood we had. But at least they will have childhood memories of going outside, playing inside, eating at the table without a device, instead of childhood memories of getting to the next level or what their friend is doing on social media.
At Rajat Gupta 8736 wrote,
The amount of damage cell phones can do to a child or in fact a whole generation is too dangerous, beyond our imagination. This device is badly affecting our children, their focus, attention, their new young minds and their behavior. This device is turning into a bad master, much more than a good friend. 90% of its usage seems to be limited to run and engage in social media etc. only.
At Jacob Hauk 123 wrote,
It's so sad. I work in a restaurant in Scotland, and essentially every single child is plopped down on a chair and tranquilized the entire time there at the restaurant. I'll bring them food, and they won't even bat an eye. Their parents have to wake them up from this trance.
Atina 1104 wrote,
The idea of having a lovely, cuddly baby is nice. But then the hard work begins. We have to put some effort in to mold them into good human beings. To teach them right from wrong, how to socialize. Good manners, dress and wash themselves, and some parents actually have started teaching their kids their first words and read stories to them. Some parents have given their kids a phone to make life easy. Bringing children up is not easy if done the right way, but for the children they gain skills for life. As a foster carer, my kids got their first phone when they went to high school, as did my own son.
At Adambo 2359 wrote,
I agree with all of what she says except for the under 16 social media bill in Australia. That bill is just the government trying to push through mandatory digital ID with same old rhetoric that it's for the safety of the citizens.
At Matilda Crow 1123 wrote,
As a 17-year-old in my final year of school, I would love to have less screen time. I have limited myself to 30 minuets a day on my phone. However, my total screen time is probably around 5 hours. It's all just homework. Almost all homework now is online. Essays are typed, yes, but textbooks are also PDFs, and even class notes are expected to be accessible from any computer. It's impossible to escape. And I do know it's ruining my sleep. I feel the difference on days where I don't have to work long into the evening. However, it's just inescapable. If you want to do well at school, you must spend hours glued to a laptop.
JustMe0980 wrote.
Even if those two were sitting without smartphones and staring at each other, they would hardly get in touch. People are afraid of getting a refusal in front of other people. I'm 45 and I'm very attractive, and I can recall only 4 to 5 cases when men came to me at the street and say like, "Hey, you're beautiful. May I have your phone number?" I met my lovely husband on a dating site, and it's much easier to start communication there, especially for a man and a beautiful woman, which he would be afraid to come to in real life.
Chromosundrift wrote.
Adults refusing to gain STEM skills is the root cause of this. The problem is not the technology, it is the content. The solution is always supervision. If parents or teachers refuse to take responsibility for supervising children's access to content just because it's packaged in a technology that didn't exist when they were children, then their technophobia is exposing children to unknown dangers. Education and parenting is all about preparing children to become adults in the future they will realistically live in. That future has more technology, not less. Their health, happiness, and financial security depends critically on their skills with what we consider to be new and challenging today. Educators and parents can show leadership by example here. Practice in a daily regime of self-education and training in science, technology, engineering, and math STEM. And while you're at it, add in foundational study and financial literacy.
Patricia Scorpa 7696 wrote.
As a former music educator, I believe children need to put down the phone and pick up an instrument. Nothing is better at growing a young mind than music. Learning to play an instrument develops the ability to set goals, understand delayed gratification, see patterns, and listen and focus on the immediate world around them. There are almost endless benefits that I believe are especially important in this digital age to learning a hands-on skill that can bring lifelong enjoyment and benefits.
Wilco's 9102 wrote.
Banning phones in schools is a partial solution to a full-time issue. If you're a parent and you think phones are so damaging, put in your own guardrails, dumb phones, restrictions, monitoring, reasonable usage, manners, etc. And stop being lazy and / or negligent by outsourcing your problem to the system that de facto has your kids for less time than you do. At least some of this starts at home, and then teachers can manage the rest. Schools are tasked with acknowledging that phones are both distractions and, in spite of that fact, can have amazing power and learning potential while attempting to create future workers who are aware of the total range of technological capabilities. Outright bans are restrictive and not grounded in reality to how we consume information or how we are likely to consume information for at least the next generation.
Danielle Young 1680 wrote.
I have been working on theorist explanation of these times, like the Middle Ages periods that require a term. And so far, a couple have come to mind, but one stands out. And upon watching this, I'm more confident that this is the one. And here it is, the interruption ages. What you think take your time, and it fits. I honestly didn't notice the A. But backwards I. But this makes sense also. Backwards the children fare. D. Young, 2025.
Warp Straight 18 wrote.
In ancient India, children were sent off to a hermitage at age 8. Isolated from the open world in order to focus on learning values, principles necessary in healthy functioning individuals in day-to-day life, and enable personality and psychological development without the influence of external forces, and returned when they completed education by age 21. Modern world exposes children to everything that even adults find difficult to grasp, process, or digest, physically, psychologically, and emotionally. And we call it freedom.
Ruben Nichols 644 wrote.
Sophie Winkleman. To some, many of this woman as words may sound extremely exaggerative. Ivehemental. Disagree. I find her words to be accurate and justified. Sound I wholeheartedly a PPLAUD, her earnestness to sound the alarm. I pray people will listen.
Eddie 1615 wrote,
It's so sad. My daughter is a teacher, and she brings to her class the things that I showed her when she was small. She presents coloring and learning through things like making a very large advent calendar we used to make at home for years and years, well into my children's teens. We need to stop sales of phones for children. At the same time, we need to make sure phone boxes are back on. Our streets, many have been lost.
At Goodyear Quadri 4657 wrote,
The immediate danger we are facing today all over the world after the genocide in Gaza is this. The phone and social media in the hands of young children, which is not just making them physically idler, but mentally weak, and I'm very much in agony to see this in my own house.
At Osologic wrote,
When we look back to the contemporary human civilization of last 100 years, the wars, the social ethnic conflicts in different countries, the inequalities, brutal exploitation of the majority by a minority, all the humps and frauds, crimes, alcohol and drug addiction, what role did the social media play in all that? Negative and inhuman civilization evolved through a single generation? Why? Wrong education, wrong parenting that happens only through the fundamental emotions of selfishness and greed. There lies the problem of education and parenting.
At Ivana Spank wrote,
I also feel that people not knowing how to parent causes a ton of issues. You can't blame just screens, but the lack of support for parents, lack of resources, and lack of teaching on how to deal with situations with your children that teach them, rather than punish them with pain, etc.
At Forever Learner 82 wrote,
The problem isn't tech in general. It's not kids using Chromebooks to write essays, it's kids glued to TikTok and Fortnite at 2 a.m. Stop blaming school tech for problems personal phones and social media created. Many schools already ban phones during class. If a school doesn't, that's a phone policy problem, not a reason to attack educational technology. Classroom tech builds skills. Social media drains them. Know the difference. When used right, tech in schools opens doors that pencil and paper simply can't. Stop fighting the wrong battle. The real enemy isn't responsible tech use, it's distraction culture. Once again, parents want to shift blame. And we wonder why teachers are quitting in droves.
At Lori Dixon 9661 wrote,
I visited a coastal location in Essex recently. This area is one of the few that allow campers to park on the road facing the sea for free. Many of the campers had their doors open. All I could see were people laying on the beds, scrolling through their phones. That beautiful view, friendly locals who like a chat, and lots of amenities wasted. It was so sad.
At Grace Purcell 7825 wrote,
Adults need free time with FUN2. The adults are the ones who are mostly responsible for allowing their child/friend to be plugged in, whether it's a phone, computer, streaming channels, social platforms, or gaming. The ALLRE damaging. I hate that tech has been brought into the schools on an unhealthy level. Parents see and fight back and need to if they truly care their child's well-being. Theo Sweden.
Gary S. wrote,
No phone for kids until 15 by law, but we have crap for government left and right. It won't end well. Well done, well said, but our leaders are puppets to corporate greed and global banking. Well said, good speech. When this system implodes, it will change, and well done, Australia.
At Quandrix Twincaster 5738 wrote,
There's much truth to screen-based brain rot here, but she's so far off base on many things. She comes across as a very RAH screens BAD and goes on and on about blue light, blind and THE kids. But even the American Academy of Ophthalmology has concluded that there is no scientific evidence to support this. Can constant eye contact with screens cause eye strain? Yes, but if you look away for at least 20 seconds to look away from screens every 20 minutes, also to focus on things further away from you, you can drastically reduce this. The biggest issue distracting kids in schools are absolutely their phones. TikTok has been a net negative on people in general, and not just kids. Smartphones should 100% be banned at school because it gives kids unfiltered access to the entire world. And with AI apps like ChatGPT available, kids aren't even learning how to properly research topics on the web anymore. It's fine if they verify information ChatGPT spits out to actually be accurate, but they're also just copy-pasting from the app. As useful as a smartphone can be for many things, it's a massive distraction for kids. I get that exceptions exist, such as children with diabetes needing access to things like the Dexcom/Freestyle Libre apps, as well as being in a position to be contacted promptly in emergencies, but those exceptions don't apply to most kids. Outside of that, I disagree with her on most other things. She also completely fails to realize that there are many different types of learners. That's not even counting in learning disabilities. For countless kids, including myself, I learned far more and retained knowledge from having it read out to me, as opposed to reading it off of a page. Even in reading books for fun, I find that my eyes start to blur lines together, and oftentimes by the time I get to the end of a page, I've already forgotten what I just read. My eyes also get fatigues from paper pages very quickly, so they really only help me to fall asleep. If I have an audiobook instead, I can listen to them for hours and retain what's gone on. It helps with imagination equally to reading visually, because I still imagine the same scenes playing out in my head. As for her RH pens and paper only points, that didn't do well for me either. I got premature arthritis, as it runs in my family. Even in high school, being forced to write out essays with thousands of words or writing notes would just make my hand hurt so much so that all I focused on was the pain and I didn't learn anything. It made taking notes off of slides or the whiteboard just as difficult, as teachers often do not give you long enough to write everything down by hand. If I'm typing it on my laptop, not only am I retaining all of the information, but I'm actually getting all of it. The most important part of retention comes less from how you take notes, but how often you actually study them. On the subject of typing, it's interesting how she completely glosses over the fact that Gen Z and onwards are basically tech illiterate, despite doing their learnings on Shexty Chromebooks. The iPad kid meme is incredibly accurate. Most of them struggle to even type properly on a keyboard because schools removed typing classes. Most schools don't even teach children to use applications like Word, PowerPoint, or Excel or their alternatives, ARCA applications they're going to need to be familiar with in many industries. Future generations have poor computer skill uses in general because schools really only provide Chromebooks, which are a completely butchered experience. On top of that, despite having phones/tablets in their hands all day, they have no idea how the deeper workings of their devices work. Most of them don't know how to clear the cache/data on apps, how to access developer options, or even what most of their settings do. They're not educated properly on the technology they have, and that's a huge problem. Other high schools in my city even had mandatory classes for writing code. Sadly, mine didn't, but it would have been very useful if they had. This woman fails to understand that tech isn't the problem. The problem is the content from that tech that's being consumed by future generations. Video games didn't hinder my development or creativity, but instead accelerated it and inspired me. Games like Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, Zelda, and far more inspired me to take up art. Watching engaging and well-directed movies inspired my creativity to write from my own and kickstarted my love of acting. These stories even helped me with my emotional intelligence. They serve as a healthy outlet for my feelings, including being able to put proper emotion into acting. Audiobooks allow me to recreate these stories as movies in my head. Video games even gave me good abilities to solve puzzles from titles such as Portal, Professor Layton, and Myst. VR has opened up a whole new world of learning. Being able to view full 3D virtual models of things, getting used to the feeling of heights, and even aiming firearms. That's not even counting being good practice for your sense of rhythm with games like Beat Saber, on top of it being a good workout. As for other things, I learned Photoshop in high school, and that's been an incredibly useful skill for digital art and photography. You can also have good cooperation skills from video games, especially ones like Portal 2. As for fun, as much as I love physical board games, Mario Party is also always a great time to kick back and have a blast with friends. The main takeaway of this is that kids are consuming the wrong content to make tech beneficial, and they're using it in ways that hinder them.
Don McKay 7742 wrote,
In Canada, yes, they need more national attention to this. So many adults still use tech to keep kids quiet. Some kids have completely uncensored internet access. I don't see enough effort from the system or parents/adults on this topic. No internet discipline is causing large problems in society that's showing more in both work and personal lives. Started seeing signs of this back in the early 2000s, when touch screens' popularity exploded. Tons of kids had touch screens back then. Now all kids have touch screens to keep them quiet, kids as young as 3 years old.
Ted Colonan 6856 wrote,
It used to be understood that the human body had 50 trillion cells. It is now accepted as the human body has 37 trillion cells. Each cell has a nucleus or nuclear reactor for energy. Each cell processes a terabyte of information constantly. Each cell has 92 DNA strands. Each DNA strand processes a 1,000 terabyte information constantly. All of this is wireless and can connect with all of existence. No AI can compare with this. Based on your vibrational frequency, this body refreshes itself just like a monitor refreshes itself. This refresh is back to the original code. This is why damage, disease, or viruses do not actually affect the body. This is based on maintaining your vibrational frequency. Living in fear, anger, and hate, we generate a maximum of 150 Hz. Living in love, hope, and peace will generate a minimum of 600 Hz. Live in love, hope, and peace to save all life and existence we live in. Because of this, what we call eating is not complete. We consume food, light, sound, and any energy produced, positive or negative. By consuming all energy and transforming this energy into the energy of agape, then releasing all this energy creates more energy and picks up speed. Living in love, hope, and peace agape. This is the movement back and forth that builds and builds. Can anyone be ready? It is like being the one. Knowing the path and following the path are not the same. Start here. All viruses and diseases start with inflammation. Drink only structured water or living water. Eat only organic foods. Take and form these at least 220 vitamins, minerals, and amino acids daily. Eating in this way over time, 80 to 90% of all viruses and diseases are eliminated. Eating in this way reduces inflammation. Eat an alkaline diet. It will reduce medical costs. Structured water is youtube.com.
Akiki Sunshine 5884 wrote.
Let's talk about when my child has serious syndrome. Her feet, legs often hurt, and in the morning when I go to school, I ask the teacher to please pay attention to Olivia in today's education class, especially when there is physical exercise because she has been complaining a lot about her feet lately and often up and down. I ask the teacher to be kind and give my little girl the opportunity to sit down and rest when her feet hurt so much. My little girl went to the teacher 3 times to tell her that her feet hurt in PE, and the teacher didn't let my child sit down 3 times. She said that it's enough if she just walk. The child almost cried in pain. Or let's talk about when teachers burn out after 5 years to the point where they no longer have the patience to deal with children and can't speak to them as kindly and patiently as they should. When the teacher yells at the children for being stupid, and when the teacher yells at the children for being so loud that the other person gets scared. I see that a teacher completely burns out in 5 years. When I see teachers' behavior change, I would definitely send the teachers on a break. I would give them not just a week, not just a month, not just 2 months, but at least a half-year break or a whole year break before they can return back to work at school again. I would have them do a different kind of work until this rest. Recovery time is filled with other work, not among children. The classes are full of children already struggling with mental health issues. How can a teacher supervise and teach 33 children if they have such issues in the class at the same room? It is impossible to send a teacher to a class with 33 children and have to teach them, perhaps with a teacher's assistant. There is a percentage in the class who really wants to learn in a calm environment and would be happy to sit at the desk and listen to the teacher. But when it is impossible to listen because the other percentage of children in the class do not want to listen and did not want to learn or cannot listen and cannot learn, there is this percentage who is so tired that they cannot concentrate, and there are those who regularly disrupt the class in a high percentage, from whom those students who want and cannot learn. And when your child who was raised with good manners in Catholic family free from all swearing go to school they got fucks off, idiot, STXXD words regularly from school kids without any reasons. And no one apologizes to her when I tell the teacher about it. The school says that the school doesn't have time for everything. My child doesn't deserve an apology. After facts off. They cry themselves because others bullying them at lunchtime as well. About homemade cooked lunch is disgusting. While others eating crisps, sweets and cold sandwich. Juice. The teachers shout with them, all of them couse the noise level at classroom. While your child have a good manner. They feeling themselves scared about this. They clench their legs in fear when the teacher shouts. They cried themselves cause others bullying them, and the teacher didn't share with parents any information about them days. My child is begging not to have to go to school. He doesn't want to go to school. This is the real situation.
Some random guy, N3K wrote.
Feminism was a gift to men. It was shoved down our throats. The men were removed from the workplace as the left sided with the immigrants. So men brewed up our own private lives. And now, we are going international. Passport life. No more buying a Ford Mustang to impress a woman weaponized in family court. The new thing is men are now globe travelers. We just live very frugally here and live life. See the world. Modern feminized women is now our boat anchor. Feminism really freed MEN, and why men are no longer attending college. MENDONOT want TOBLEDB why women. WHY matriarchies fail. AND never survive.
Ebensnes wrote,
Strange point of view. My pre-internet schooling was a waste of time. Learning things of largely zero use in the world of work. Taught by people who'd gone straight from school to college to teaching with no experience of the real world. By contrast, the internet has been an absolute boon of useful information on subjects like modern tech, DIY, car maintenance, medical developments, engineering subjects, etc.
At lovely_flight_feel_the_beat wrote,
What's sad is that this screen time first starts at home. Parents are the child's first teacher. Parents, families, and guardians model this, and children usually do what they see. In school, especially in ECE, screen time is very minimal or non-existent. In elementary and upper grade, screen time is only used in a monitored short time frame and geared only with research or educational purposes. But this is the world we live in. They want to dumb US down, and we allow this. It's their plan. You have control over your own choices and to help your children. Not society help your children think for themselves.
At Moral Absolutist 2025 wrote,
Putting screens and ed tech in classrooms is nothing short of dehumanizing and satanic. Teachers' unions are responsible. School boards are responsible. Neglectful, uncaring parents are responsible. Many groups have willfully and passively conspired to harm and abuse the young and innocent. The progressive devils have been the original foundation for this abuse by pushing abortion and the murder of the most innocent. This satanic ideology has led to unfettered abuse of the innocence that has survived birth. They have no power over decent, moral people, so they seek abuse of the naive and vulnerable. Progressives and atheists are pure evil. If you allow your children to be in the presence of progressive, liberal atheists, you are abusing your children. You are exposing them to pure evil. Christ declared that those who harm children and innocents will be judged most harshly. Woe to those harming babies and children. You work for Satan. Take more interest in your children's lives, not your own. Your life is not about you. End your selfish, neglectful behavior and attitude. Serve others, especially the innocent. Turn back towards God, towards Jesus Christ. Miracles will follow. Reject the culture of death. Celebrate life. Jesus Christ is Lord. He has risen. Everything is changed. Sin and death were conquered.
Adibowsi wrote,
My daughter goes to a charter school that is screen-free. No tech, no cell phones, and since there was nothing like that in the 90s and millennial, I find it so crazy that screens-free laptop, iPad, cell phone usage is so common in public schools today. My mom works in one, so she tells me horror stories. I'm grateful for my daughter's school for the screen-free policy because I feared for the influence from friends who would likely bring outside content to her to watch without my control or knowledge. That's not going to happen at her school. They also encourage screen limits at home. Our home opts for old school Nintendo 64 because it has no connection to the internet, no outside influence, and very limited supervised screen time other times. I have learned in the past that my kids, my oldest in particular, acts like a little monster when cut off from screens when too much was given. I said never again. The biggest challenge now will be to get my parents to play with my kids in place of the constant video watching. We could never leave my kids at their house due to the TVs constantly being on in every room, and they don't like going outside hardly. When they visit, since they know we have no TV for watching shows, just a /V for the N64, no channels exist, they show them videos on their phone. It's pretty frustrating. I'm glad my in-laws visit the most because they don't do that when they watch our kids. In addition, the most frustrating thing about the boomer generation is that they think screen access is somehow safer from predators than playing outside. It isn't.
David Parsonage, 1930, wrote,
UK is not a leader in education. The effectiveness of the UK's education system has been declining for over 25 years. UK education is below EU average. Big business is more important to govs than education. Critical thinking for under 16s is rarely taught. Many MPs who attended Oxford and Cambridge are clearly unsuitable for leadership positions and seriously lack the knowledge and skills to make strategic decisions. Only 30% of investment actually improves performance significantly. Corporate departments' primary focus has been data collection, but this resulted in data overload, with more money spent on IT systems, e-learning, leading to 100s more people in IT, while operational efficiency and effective has seriously declined. This results in much higher costs and higher retention rates. Senior managers rarely improve outcomes at the operational level. Most interventions are disruptive and negatively impact operations. Higher levels of bureaucracy, low-value training.
CS_247 wrote,
I recently took a flight to Dubai, and going through security, a family of 5 in front of me unloaded no less than 15 electronic devices into the trays. 15 WTF. After security and waiting at the gate, another couple with 2 kids sat playing with toy cars on the floor and coloring books, and talked, looked out of the windows, and drew on paper for 45 minutes. The previous family squabbled about who needed the nearby charging socket the most, or sat glued to a screen.
The affiliator wrote,
I agree that personal smartphones should not be used for personal things in school. However, I think the entire school systems are totally useless, and what is taught and how it's taught is criminal. I think school should be about educating kids about the world and not forming/grooming them into slaves of society. I could have taught myself much better than any teacher, and everything is now online. The school systems are so far behind the real world that kids will learn 10 times more on their smartphones than in school during the school day. For example, learning how to prompt and maximize communication with AI should be one of the key things all kids are focused on, because the world is changing so fast most adults can't even keep up. Every 12 months the world is shifting, and in 3 years from now you won't even recognize the world. Flying taxis start in the Middle East next year.
Jack F6Q6P wrote,
Thank you, Sophie, for such an enlightened speech. I just hope we've not gone beyond the point of return. The simple beauty of getting out in nature and sitting to gaze at the trees, clouds, the rivers, the flowers, or to write a poem from your heart without going through the phone. Take everything in with your eyes and not the camera, and feel the sensation of breathing fresh air. We Are Divine brings experiencing this wonderful world through a human body, so let's not waste it, and most importantly, try to stop our children from losing their childhood.